Thank you, everybody. So for those who don't have yet to know me, I'm Jim Romano. I'm the legislative coordinator for the WAIHA Warriors. And I helped organize our first Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill back in October, where we brought patients and a couple more. Karen was there, and we went and we actually did Capitol Hill, and we met with a whole bunch of offices. And the one thing you can learn when you're working on Capitol Hill is that anything can happen at any moment as you're walking through the hallway. And my first question to the group was, before that day, had you ever gone to Washington to participate in an Advocacy Day? And if you hadn't, how nervous were you for that day?
Happy to speak to that. No, I had never, ever participated in anything like that, and I was extremely nervous, but also very excited because I am passionate about advocating for WAIHA. But no, I had never, ever before. And it ended up being easier than I thought, and something I would 100% do again and recommend to anybody in this room that if there's something you want to advocate about.
I have never even thought of going to Washington, D.C. So yeah, I was very nervous. I think the hardest part was, getting to the building. Once we got to the building and everything went as smooth as Jim said it would, I was like, oh, right, now we can relax and have fun. Other than that, before that, I was never even had the urge to go to D.C., but now I want to go all the time.
I did have the privilege of doing a little bit of advocacy, but it was for work, so I was advocating not really for myself, and it was really a different experience because I was advocating for something that was going to impact me personally. So, and I found it to be very different than when I went for work. When I went for work, I was sort of like acting, for somebody else. But here I was just myself and telling my story, and felt very comfortable with that.
So I'm actually Eric's wife, and I'm also a pediatrician. So I have advocated, again, not for personal reasons, personal convictions, but personal reasons on the Capitol. So I was familiar with the procedure. But as Eric mentioned, advocating for something personal for your family member, for your loved one, is very different. And also as a caretaker, I wanted to, explain my perspective and how how WAIHA affects patients, which everybody here was great at doing, but also families and caretakers, and also being able to speak from a perspective of a physician, even though my expertise is not hematology, just, making that connection. So I was a little nervous about talking about the personal side, but it was great, and they were very open. The staff members were very open.
What was was there anything about the day that surprised you the most that you weren't expecting, or that when you left there as wow? I mean, it didn't change your perspective, but you were pleasantly surprised or horrified actually on the other end of that.
I would say for me, it was just that it felt as comfortable as it did. I mean, I was still nervous, but I didn't expect it to be, I guess, that not easy, but to even walk into the buildings. I had no idea what to expect of the whole process. I didn't. It's like, oh, you just walk in and you have your appointments. I realized that you guys set up easy for me to say from Jim's perspective.
Try walking in when you don't have an appointment.
Yeah, I'm sure that doesn't go over very well. We're so very grateful to Jim and his company and for the help that we get. But yeah, it was surprising to me. I was so nervous about walking in, and it was like, oh, they're regular people just like us, and they really did want to hear what we had to say. So
Yeah, they're not like they are on TV.
no.
For me, I'm just going to say, so it changed my whole perspective, not just on the disease, but it's the fact that we can go into these people and talk to them. And I had no political views. I still don't really have any political views, but I have definitely taken interest in Washington D itself, because now I want to know what everything is. Like, who are these people we are talking to, and what do they do? So, I went from never watching the news, now I fall asleep to the news every night, all because we went to D.C. and I get to watch the news and see I was there, and, but when we were there walking from building to building, even, going into these offices, when you're walking through those offices, my brain's just like, who all walked through these halls? And you start thinking about who has walked through these halls, whether they're there for you or not, but we were just as important as them on that day that they were all their times walking through those halls. So it changed my whole perspective on Washington, D.C. If you ever get a chance, go.
And I'll set the scene. I think we were there October 25th, which was the day that the Congress finally elected a speaker after, I think there were 3 or 4 votes that all failed. So this was the day that they were going to vote on Mike Johnson to become the Speaker of the House. And so you could feel like the buzz around the building. But what I was most surprised about was we just walked in. I mean, yeah, we had appointments, but we didn't have to show like that we had an appointment. And we just walked through the metal detector and we were in. And when we went to the Senate side, we did have to have somebody come down to take us up, because I think there was some concern about security in particular that day in the Senate side. And the way it works is, we learned all this from Jim. The House has office buildings on one side and the senators have office buildings on the other side of the Capitol. And so we did a lot of walking that day, but it was just surprising how open it was to anybody. And I think anybody can walk in, right? And
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
technically speaking, now this has all changed since January of 2023, but from the moment it shut down for COVID, it was, it's just really opened up again since January of 2023. And, that was the hardest part for me, is because
January 6th, from January.
no, so Congress always begins in January of odd years. So an election year is an even years for Congress, and then that January they have their inaugural. And when the Republicans took over the House in January of 2023, they said, okay, we're going to open it up, because before for a year it was closed, like from March to about of 2020 to March, maybe in the summer of 2021, it was closed. You couldn't go, you couldn't get in, because I too remember when I started when I was 19 years old, going to Capitol Hill advocating. You can just walk in, and you should, because you're taxpayers. I mean, we pay for it. It's our. So from when I started in 1995 until March of 2020, you could enter and go as you please. If you get obnoxious, they're going to throw you out. I mean, like there's a lot of police officers. But then it was closed during COVID, and then it slowly opened up. And what they would do is, first of all, you would have to wait outside, and then they would come and get you, and then they would escort you. You would be escorted to the office, and then you had to leave the building right away. And then in 2022, it was like, okay, you could go in, and then you could go and hang out in the cafeteria for a little while and go to your next meeting or something like that. But now it's totally open. You can come and go as you please, which is really great, and that's awesome. So while you were there,
Sorry, Jim. Can I answer the question, because I wanted to bring up something.
Sure.
Based on,
Yeah,
I wasn't able.
Yeah,
No, because you were going to ask another question. I want to let you all know that not only did we meet with people in their offices, but we were hanging out outside. And Mazie Hirono, I don't know if anyone recognized the name. She's a senator from Hawaii. She happened to be walking by, and we went to talk to her. And she was so open to hearing your stories. Well, Justin was with Eric and me at the time. And also, I don't want to steal your thunder on who you guys bumped into in the middle of the hallway, like not even with an appointment. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but a pretty famous
go ahead.
person.
Let's
Yeah. Because
yeah.
again, this is going to illustrate how you, like, not only did we meet people in their offices,
Scratch
their
that
aides,
question
but
off.
also very famous, extremely famous people who are very open.
Oh, you do?
Oh, you have
Oh,
a picture.
yeah. So,
I got cut out of that
at
one.
the, yeah, Justin is next on the other side of me, and my friend Nancy. So it was the end of the day, and we had an appointment with Senator Gillibrand, and that got canceled at the last minute. So we had extra time. So we were hanging out in the cafeteria. We went to the gift shop. They have a very nice gift shop. And we were then leaving the building to go meet the other group with Danae and Azreen and Karen. And we pushed the elevator button and the doors open, and out walked Nancy Pelosi, the former speaker. And, you can't miss her. I mean, she's so iconic.
About this big.
Yeah, tiny and very well dressed, and I shouted, "Oh my God, it's Nancy Pelosi!" and she got a little
Amateur.
startled, and she came over, and took us on the side, and what brings you gentlemen here? And Justin,
Go ahead.
yeah, and we gave her our story. Here it is. This woman's been, in Washington for however many years. She stopped to listen to our story. We told her the story, and she, was on it. She told us exactly what to, who to talk to. She told us that, she knew it was a rare disease. She knows all about rare diseases. And then Justin asked her to, if she would take a picture.
Yeah, I asked her if she'd take a picture, and she said, I only got a couple seconds. Well, she takes the picture, she was there for 15 minutes. So
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
super nice.
Yeah,
It was
but
super
I mean,
nice to
the
talk to her.
point of that really is, you never know if you're in there, you never know who you're going to meet. And we told her, she probably doesn't remember WAIHA Warriors, but we were able to tell someone very, very powerful in Washington our story.
And that's how it's supposed to work, which is really great. You get the buzz. I remember going in there for the first time and seeing the members walking around and going, honestly, you could go up and talk to them, and you can run them into the cafeteria. And, my boss always sent me to the cafeteria for her lunch, but nonetheless, you can run into some people there. And what made the biggest impression on you of the day? And would you do it again? Would you sign up again to come to DC and advocate?
Okay, I'll go first. So, the biggest impression for me was when we were in LaHood's office, waiting for our meeting, and then we started our little meeting, and LaHood comes in, but we never really got to the disease till the very end, because we started talking about Lexington, because he's my representative. So we started talking about the town I was living in, and pretty soon we're talking about craft beers and burgers, and it was just like a regular person talking to a regular person from, at that point, everything disappeared. Like, he wasn't, the hood. He was just the guy that wanted to talk about beer and burgers and take pictures in his office. But and I would definitely go back whenever.
Actually, it's funny, getting back to what you said, because of the vote for the speaker. What was so fascinating about that day is we run into Jim Jordan, and he was at one point in the running to be speaker, but he couldn't get the votes. And that was Karen's congressman, and we run into him in the hallway, and we're, and it was just kind of funny. And then we go to Azreen's congressman, who was Steve Scalise, again, in the running to be speaker. And so it was interesting having that, both of them having been jumped out of the race for speaker and going into their offices thinking, wow, it's a shame, because if that was the case, then, it might be have been, that might have been great, because then they usually, people, even though they're Speaker of the House, they still represent a district, and they still have constituents who still vote for them or don't vote for them. And so it's, it's always great. I can tell this story. Back in the 1990s, my uncle lived in Newt Gingrich's district, and there was a bill that my uncle, it was a bill to compensate hemophiliacs who were infected with HIV through contaminated blood, which my three uncles were. And so my uncle advocated with Newt Gingrich, and Newt Gingrich, and I had some preconceived notions on Newt Gingrich, and Newt Gingrich looked down and said, I'm going to get your bill through Congress, becomes Speaker of the House, and gets the bill through Congress. So, I mean, like the House, and the day the bill passed the House, Gingrich spoke at the press conference, and Nancy Pelosi spoke at the press conference, and I still think of that, because I remember there were 5 guys, and there was Nancy Pelosi, and everybody's waiting to speak, and they keep looking at their watches, and Nancy Pelosi kept talking and talking and talking, and then they kept looking at their watches. But no, so it's real important. I always say that everybody has to know who their congressman is so they can build a relationship with that office. And building a relationship, I mean, that covers a whole multitude of sins, but it's important that they know who you are, you know who they are, and they know who you are. So he's always going to recognize, Justin, because Justin just stands out.
Because I'm beautiful, right? I'm a unicorn.
Yeah, well, no, because you're not like the million lobbyists that traipse through his office every day. But that's one of the important things is to. I always tell this story. When I wanted to get my congressman on that bill I was just talking about, the Ricky Ray bill, I made an appointment, and it was the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, and they gave me a 4:00 in the afternoon appointment with the congressman. And I showed up, but it was also the day of my girlfriend's prom. And I literally didn't have time, so at 4:00 I show up in my tuxedo. But the congressman remembered me. He co-sponsored the bill. He remembered me, and when it passed, he did speak at the press conference where he was like, and Jim actually came dressed better than I was dressed in my own office. It was just kind of a funny story, but he always remembered it. And so I always say, do something memorable. Just don't get yourself thrown out. That's the important thing. I want to know if this I don't say bothered you or struck you when you were in the offices. One of the things people always tell me when I take them onto Capitol Hill when we go in an office is how young the staffers are. Okay. And my father one time said, I can't believe this country's run by a bunch of 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Were they 20?
Yeah, we met, I'd say Justin and I and Liz met with probably about 8 or 9, maybe not then, maybe about, but in general, we had a very different experience too with the people we met with. In some cases, the person was new and didn't really know healthcare issues at all. In another case, we had somebody who was pretty familiar with healthcare issues, but there was one Illinois representative whose staffer was a physician, which was blew my mind.
With an autoimmune.
Yeah, and she knew. We didn't have to tell her any of sort of like the medical stuff, So that was good. But to see that somebody who had done, went to medical school, trained as a physician, and then that she's doing this, it makes you feel good to know that. It's not just 20-year-olds. There were, there were a couple of them. And, interesting thing, too, was there was even one person who we met with, I don't know if you remember, I forget how we but we connected because he had a friend.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Right. Didn't have WAIHA, but had lupus or some, So we were able to connect with them, even if they weren't a medical specialized in medical issues.
And out of everybody we saw, we only had one bad apple.
Yeah.
Actually, can I? How did you overcome a bad meeting?
What?
What?
I would say it was the shortest one that we had, and we stayed in the hallway. We didn't go into the office and sit. Most of the time, we were able to go into the office and sit and get comfortable and really tell our story. This one, who could tell? She was brand new. She had us in the hallway, and I think we were done in 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, she was, yep.
She was our
Okay, thank you.
congressperson.
Yeah.
Is this on?
I'm surprised they let that happen. Sometimes they.
And it kind of rubbed us wrong when we left. Like, it was the only one we really talked about. We were just both like, wow,
Yeah.
well, welcome to New York.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
No, well, I always tell people you have to prepare for, you could be sitting there in an office, and you could be in the office with the congressman, and you'll be like, oh wow, this thing's going long, or they bring you out in the hallway, and basically you have to give a quick elevator speech, but the key to it all is you can have all these meetings, but if you don't follow up afterwards, then then it's like they never even happened. So that's the important thing. Sorry, Karen.
I'm going to take over your panel. So this was what I want a lot of people here to know. Sorry if I'm screaming. So what happens is if you are interested in being in the 2024 Advocacy Day, and we're starting to talk about it now, it would be in the fall, we get you to DC, we go to dinner, right? We went to a famous DC restaurant, Bull Feathers.
Bull feathers.
And then we talk to you about how it's going to go the next day, right? We talk about how do you tell your story, because your story is very dependent upon your audience, right? If you have, how much time do you have? What parts do you want to really focus on? What parts may they not need to hear, right? So we talk a little bit about that, and then we talk about the different people that we're going to go see. My point is, we don't let you go in blind, right? We give you the information that you need that you can feel confident going in. And then the following day, we actually had 2 teams. Jim led one of them and Josh led the other one. And they went to, I think you guys went to the House and we went to the Congress, and then we flipped or something like that. But then we just follow them around. They know where they're going. You don't have to know where those offices are. That's why we have them, right? They lead us to the office. Yeah, and then you meet the secretary, and you wait for, most of the time you meet with an aide, right? Meet with the aide, you tell your story. How was it that we divided it up? Azreen also was with us. We divided it up to where we took turns telling our story.
Yeah. If it was a Texas office,
Right.
I went first. If it was Ohio,
Exactly,
you went
yeah.
first. If it was
Yeah, we were all matched up with
Louisiana-
our reps.
Yeah.
I always let Eric go first.
And so then we did that, and it depends a lot on how much time they have. If they have a lot of time, then we engaged. If they didn't, that was fine, and we thanked them, and we went on to the next office that we had an appointment. So it's very planned out. We don't just open the doors and shove you in.
We
then
don't throw you out there by
No,
yourself.
Stacy.
And the point was
Oh,
really
sorry.
to tell our story, to leave them knowing something positive about our stories, and to know about WAIHA and WAIHA Warriors, so if and to know about rare diseases in general, and I think we really accomplished that. And I would, if anybody is hesitant, I mean anybody in this room, any of the patients, can go and tell just to tell your story. They want to hear.
The
from
Canadians might have a hard time, but
Well, yeah, we can.
I just have a quick question. I've done a few of these myself in the past, and sometimes there are even specific asks that the group will show you as part of preparing you for the appointment. So telling your story, and then if there's a specific bill or a specific thing that particular representative is involved in, that helps you get in the door with that person. So I'm wondering if that's part of what you did as well.
well, this time was really just to introduce WAIHA to Congress. I mean, this is the first time we're bringing a group up, and actually this segues nicely because I know earlier thank you. We prepare this like early on. We see each other in different settings. I'll do that. Yes. But here's a great example. So right now, a lot of the issues that the patient advocacy community are working on are, there's a federal bill to end copay accumulators. One of the people earlier was discussing how insurance companies are not taking their copay card and not counting it towards your out-of-pocket expenses. Well, there's a bill regarding that. Peace too. I gotcha. There's bills also on step therapy, on fail first, on different other issues. On different issues. My point is, this was introduced. There's two things right now we're working on. When we have approved treatments, coverage and access issues are going to be very important. That doesn't mean we don't sign letters and support those pieces of legislation now. We do. Karen's always getting an email and say, sign this letter, sign that letter in support of. But right now, it's working on awareness of the disorder, a portfolio at the National Institutes of Health, and making sure that it's the National Institutes of Health gets $50 billion a year. $50 billion. Josh is going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. We need our piece of that pie, and that's right now what we're trying to do. The way to do it is Congress is going, as you saw, we had report language last year in the Labor, Health and Human Services Appropriations Report that allows, that says NIH work on a research portfolio with the WAIHA community. That was our big success. We have to build on that, and then the only way that's going to happen is Congress telling NIH to do that, and that's why it's important for everybody to be involved to get your members of Congress to do that. Now, if your members of Congress are on the Appropriations Committee, that's even better. But those are going to be the asks moving forward, and that's important that everybody gets involved. William, I feel bad that we'll get you involved with the members of Parliament up in Canada. And Amola, we'll work on democracy in Hungary. Anybody, any last words about come do it?
It was fun.
Yeah, and definitely caregivers, family members, be in the mix.
Good.
Yes, and like I said, he said, in case you didn't notice, we have a great time together.
Yes.
Despite rare diseases, the disease doesn't define us. We've all connected so much, and we have a good time together.
And I feel like DC, when we were walking back home that night, when we were all walking, I feel like we all connected. The whole weekend just went like this because we were taking selfies all the way home. Then we're complaining, are we going the right way? It was just nonstop laughter all the way home.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade that for the world.
No.
It was such a good experience.
It is a bonding experience.
Yeah.
It is.
You bond with the people you're at. If you want to, and we all wanted to, so it was a lot of fun.
So everybody sign up with Karen for
Yeah,
next
yeah. And
Word
we're going to need some more advocacy grants on that one.
And don't stick your hand in the fence at the White House.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, ma'am.
I have a question. You're talking about writing our congressperson and our senators. Is there like a little outline or things that are coming up that we should specifically comment in a letter to?
When I said letters, I like the organization's been signing on letters. But if we ever have yes, we will give you the tools if there's a bill, and it's vice versa. If there's something that somebody contacts you about and you want the Warriors as an organization to help you with, then we can work with you and help craft language for you to send to your congressmen and senators. If they ever ask you just to email your congressman directly, don't do it. We'll work with you. There's a staff member that you're going to want to talk with. So that's and we can work with you that way. So to do it right.
I have a question. Is there a utility of people like, let's say me, going to my congressperson's office in New York to talk to them about WAIHA or rare diseases? Is there utility in that?
So that's a great question because Josh and I we always encourage people during the congressional recess to go to their local offices The local office is set up actually differently than DC. The local offices that congressmen have are for what they call caseworkers. So people who aren't getting their Social Security or their Medicare or their VA benefits, or they have bats in their attic, or they usually come in and no, seriously, you haven't lived until you're you answer the phones for a member of Congress. You have not lived. Believe me, I could write a whole chapter of my autobiography about the calls I received from prisons, calling collect. Now, there was a congressman, Mel Reynolds, who got convicted, and he wanted to talk to my boss because they served together, and he would call collect every couple of weeks. And my boss is like, I don't want to talk to him. He was convicted of sleeping with a 14-year-old girl. I don't want to talk to him. I was like, the congresswoman's not here. Bye. But he was, anyway, I can tell you. But no, but like, so getting back to what we were saying is there is utility in going to local offices and introducing yourself. And that's important too, because like, let's say we have a meeting in wherever you live in New York and you want the congressman to come to the meeting, having them known the staff is important. But they're not going to be able to talk, they're not going to want to talk policy with you. They're going to, it's that they're there to actually work on the like important individual issues that people are facing. So I'll recommend it. If something's wrong, you're not getting your Social Security check, or then that's the place to like actually go and they open a case for you, and they those staffers are working to with the federal agencies to make sure that you're getting not short shifted or something like that. So that's I hope that answers your question. Any more questions? It's peace. Oh, okay, Alan. We're looking for September. So Congress will be in till like the end of September, barring you have to watch out for the Jewish holidays and in that time of the year. But once October comes, they're going to go home and they're going to be campaigning for the rest of that time. So we're aiming for sometime in September. So it hasn't been planned yet, but I'm sure we'll have it on Facebook when that happens. But as many people as we can, we'd love to bring you there. Karen is absolutely right. We don't just throw you in the deep end of the pool and say have fun. It's highly regulated, and we make sure that you're well taken care of. If I can give you one piece of advice, wear comfortable shoes.
Yes.
Well, thank you, guys. Is there any last words?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.